The journey begins at the narrow gate. The journey, Jesus beckons me to roam. The journey, where the path is straight. The journey takes me home. The journey takes me home.
Welcome here to The Journey. It's good to have you again. This is our second season of The Journey, and we're looking forward to another season. If you were with us the first season of The Journey, welcome back. Glad you're joining us again this morning, or whatever time of day it might be for you. But we're glad to be back on The Journey, and sharing our journey of how Christ entered into our life, and our journey became part of His journey, and we walk with Christ together. Well, this morning, helping us kick off the second season of The Journey is our very own LA girl. Yes, we have an LA girl here. With us is Michelle Ozaki. So welcome here, Michelle.
Thank you very much.
Glad you're with us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Right, we were talking and Michelle was saying, I don't know about this old camera stuff, and talking about myself is what you'd said. Yes. But, you know, an interesting thing before we begin is because we did your mom's journey in the first season, when we were talking together about your journey, it was kind of cool how, you know, things fit. And I would remember, oh yeah, I remember that part.
That's right. Yeah.
But we get it from your perspective.
Exactly.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're with us.
Thank you.
And everybody else is glad you're with us also.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
There you go. All right. That's the way to start. So, Michelle, let's talk about your journey. How did it all begin?
Well, I was born in Maywood, California, which is in the LA area. That's why he refers to me as LA girl.
Mm-hmm. Might be that way for a long time.
Yeah. So I was born August 26, 1960. And my parents were, as I said, living in the LA area. Shortly after that, though, my parents separated and we moved to Bakersfield, which was where my mom grew up.
Right.
As you heard earlier. And we lived with my grandparents for a little while. Mm-hmm. So I've always been close to them just because we lived with them and for that time when I was young. And then at some point, my grandparents bought a house for my mom and us kids to live in.
Cool.
My brother, I have a brother as well. He's a year older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we lived there until I was about five and a half. We moved to San Jose and then just lived there about a year. Lived in what do you call it? The tract homes. That was the first experience and probably the last experience of living in a tract home, which was a challenge for my mom because she'd never, lived in that kind of thing.
Right.
And then when I was 6 and a half, we moved to Portland, Oregon.
Oh.
That was, I remember Portland. I do have some memories of that.
Right.
I went to Cooch School.
Oh, you can remember the school.
Yeah, for some reason I remember a really cool teacher. So that was my, first experience and in that area. And the teacher, my birthday's in the summer. Mm-hmm. And so not very often do you get a chance for a teacher to even acknowledge that. Right. But she sent me a birthday card.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I still have it somewhere. It's, I want to say it was like a paper dolls or I don't know, just really, really cool card to get from your teacher. And just, she said some nice things in there. So that's a very fond, awesome. Very fond memory. But then we moved, the house that we were in just wasn't working out. So we moved to a couple other places, ended up on Pacific Street, and I went to Normandale.
Okay, I'm going to just interject for a second. So, because in your mom's story, what was it like living, because she said, you were living at a house that ended up being condemned. Do you remember
we haven't
that?
gotten there yet.
Oh, we haven't gotten there.
That's in Toledo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
jumping
okay.
ahead. Okay.
That's okay. The house that we first lived in Portland we called it the Big Gray House. It was just really big and old, so the heating wasn't very good, so it was kind of expensive. When we moved there in March.
Oh, wow.
So my parents were like, okay, this is not going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, too costly. But that was the issue with that house.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, lived on Pacific Street for, let's see, we moved there when I was in second grade, and then went to Normandale, and then went to Laurelhurst School, and then middle of sixth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no! Wait! Let me step back up.
Okay, yeah.
Because in Portland is where we first started going to church.
Okay.
It was Sacramento Street Baptist Church. That
Wow!
was it. I
Wow.
couldn't think of it the other day.
Yeah.
And that was my very first experience really with church. My mom grew up and went to church as a kid, to a Methodist church in Bakersfield with her family. But that was our first experience of going
And
as
you were
a
about
family.
6 years old or so?
Something like that, yeah. And then that's where we went to Vacation Bible School, and I accepted Christ when I was 8. And then I went to Christian camp through that church as well for a couple of summers when I was older.
And you loved going to camp, you said?
I did. I just loved it because they had horses and trampolines, which I just love trampolines.
Oh, do you still?
Yeah, still.
Huh.
And then the other thing is I could buy as much candy as I wanted.
Yes, you could.
My mom gave me a certain amount of money I could take with me, and I could spend it however I wanted to.
Right.
So I always loved that. I just went 2 years.
Okay.
I only went to camp for 2 years.
Yeah. But that
was
clearly...
my favorite. Oh yeah. And I learned that song, "Pass It On," which is just my favorite. It just, whenever I hear that song, it always brings up good memories of camp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was very, very fun. Our Portland years were good, and we had lots of friends. My mom, and that's how we found the church, was through a group of mothers that she was involved with.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
And that clearly had a big impact on you. I mean,
yes.
When we were talking, you said, I was baptized in everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was our, like I said, for me, my first experience at church.
Yeah.
And
received Christ.
Yeah. So it was good. And then we moved. So my stepdad got laid off. Mm-hmm. And so before that, we had bought a house in Toledo, Oregon. It's not too far from Newport, so he could go down for the weekends and fish, commercial fish. And anyway, so we had to move there because he'd lost his job. And this is the house that you had mentioned earlier, that we found out they were going to do some remodeling, and they found out that it was condemned. So I don't remember how long we lived in that particular house. Eventually they bought a house out of town.
Okay.
And we lived there. I think, so I moved there in the middle of my 6th grade year, and then I went through my freshman.
Okay.
So about 3
years or so.
3 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3.5 years. We attended church there too, I believe, but I don't remember. It didn't impact me as much as the one in Portland had.
Right. Well, they didn't have a camp, and I think is what you said. Yeah. So,
anyway, it was an interesting place to live. It had what do you call it? A mill, a paper mill. I think.
Okay.
Some kind of something with wood.
Right. Sure. Okay. I did something with wood.
And it was right by the junior high, so it's kind of stinky, but
like a sawmill then.
Yeah. But anyway, it was interesting. So
9th grade, you finish up your freshman year. And then you had a great summer in 9th year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So my parents moved to Seaside, and then that summer I went to Bakersfield and spent the whole summer babysitting my cousin, who was 10 years younger than me.
Oh,
so he was 4 or 5.
Right.
And it just happened that we had lots of visitors, people come visit. So I got to go to Disneyland 3 times.
I love that look.
So that, it's my favorite place.
Yeah.
I really love it. Anyway, so I just felt I was really lucky that summer.
Yeah. 3 times in the summer.
3 times in the summer. Yeah. And then I spent my birthday there. So I got this big, huge sheet cake with yummy frosting.
Yep.
I don't ever remember having that before. So that was, a big treat for me.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Your grandparents spoil you a little.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It was
you're
very fun.
15 years old. You moved to Seaside.
Moved to Seaside. My parents bought a motel, campground, trailer park thing.
Okay.
And so, so that was my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I was in Seaside, and it was a fun town. I like lots of people, just that touristy thing. Maybe because I grew up there, I don't know, but I really enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Yeah. Now you guys did find a church there, right?
We did. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we got involved with a Baptist church. And it was, we went to church on Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and a lot of times Wednesday, because they had a children's church or something for kids to do.
Okay, yeah.
So it was good. It was kind of funny that most of my friends that I had weren't from church. So I don't remember if it was because we didn't have many kids that went. I'm not, or they weren't my age, or I'm not sure. I can't really remember, but we were very involved. We went a lot, and
you made an interesting comment because you were in the church. Your Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday. I think you mentioned youth group a little bit from time to time.
Yeah.
But your comment was you had a relationship with Christ. You knew that because you started that when you were 8. But even though you were in the church, you really didn't feel like you were growing.
Oh, no.
Spiritual.
Yeah.
You didn't have a sense of spiritual growth.
Oh, no. Yeah. I don't, that really didn't happen for me until I was much, much older. It was as an adult because, we didn't pray at home because my stepdad was not a believer.
Sure.
So we didn't pray at home. We didn't, there wasn't that reading the Bible every day. We did, memorize Bible verses just because that's what you did at Sunday school.
Right,
and we went a lot, but it wasn't like now. I'm very involved, and I just feel like it's my part of my family. Although but then and at that time. My mother was a very young Christian as well.
Yeah, right.
She had just received Christ shortly before I did.
Right.
So, we just weren't learning that kind of thing of where you read the Bible every day.
Right.
That was just not even in my realm of thinking.
Wow. Yeah.
Until I had kids, really. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just so interesting that.
Yeah. Although we went, like I said, it just, which is kind of surprising because you'd think a Baptist church would, but no, that just at that time, it was not what you heard or what.
It was about being good people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was exactly what it was about.
Less relationship, more.
Oh yeah.
My goodness, not Christ.
Exactly. Yeah. Not a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. And many of your friends that you just mentioned were not Christians.
Right.
Yeah. So
none of my friends that I hung out with. I can only remember a few kids from church. They were older, so I'm not really sure why. Or I can't remember that well enough. But that's kind of how that was.
And so you graduated from Seaside, and you were 17, going on 18, like the song says in Sound of Music, and. You moved to Bakersfield, is that right?
I did. So my grandparents still live there. That's where my mom grew up, like I said. And my grandmother had a bookkeeping service.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I had taken business classes in college and knew that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I went to work for her and went to the 2-year college there in town,
Okay.
Bakersfield Community College. And I wasn't, so college in California at that time was very inexpensive.
Right.
It was only $4 for the help fee.
$4.
That was it. $4. And you had to
Wow.
pay for your books.
Sure.
So that was it.
Huh.
But I couldn't take a full load and get that good deal until I had established residency. So I registered to vote, I got my driver's license and all that.
Yeah.
So that I could, then the
$4.
second, $4. So then after a year, then I could start taking a regular load of
Wow.
classes.
Yeah.
And just $4.
How about that?
Yeah.
Boy, I wish
That was good.
it was like that for
I
our
know.
kids now.
Yeah. That was just in California.
Right.
That was a state,
Yeah.
community college.
Wow. Disneyland and cheap college.
I know, right? Phew, can't beat that.
So you were going to church there as well.
Yes, because my grandmother still attended the Methodist church where my mom grew up.
Right.
And then I did know a few kids there. And so I did hang out with some of the other kids that went to church there.
Right.
I had one friend, we'd go roller skating together.
Uh-huh.
That was very fun. It'd have all the up-to-date music and we'd roller
The
skate.
70s music.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll play some 70s music. I think Dan has a pair of roller skates here. You want to show us?
All right, let's go. and then I also, my grandmother was very involved with Job's Daughters.
Right.
So a friend of mine from church, we joined the Job's Daughters, and I did that until I graduated from college. I think maybe until I was 20. There's an age limit.
Right.
So whatever that was, I did that and worked for my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You made another interesting comment about church, because here you're going to church again, and it's the Methodist church this time, and there's still no spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm.
And as you look back, you made the comment that church was really more of a social gathering than anything else.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's all there was. I don't even know. I remember there was one time I'd gone with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she'd come to visit at this time or it was another time that we were there.
Right.
And we just commented, they never talk about Jesus. They never talk about, they just talk about, well, I don't want to say anything.
Yeah. That's
they
fine.
just talk about,
Yeah.
being good. Again, it's with the being
It's
good.
about
And I was being good.
Right. Right. You had said you knew how to be good.
I knew how to be good.
You had the whole personal goodness thing down. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
So, you have a story there that I wanted to bring out, because it involved the driver's test.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh, that was bad.
Well, and I bring it out because, at church you're learning personal goodness kind of thing.
Yeah. So and Seaside's a very, very small town. And so I got my driver's license in Seaside, no problem. First try, perfect score,
Yeah.
I was just in,
Right.
Then I go down to Bakersfield, California, much, much bigger town.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't pass the driver's test.
Uh-oh.
And I am a bit of a perfectionist, especially back then. And I like to do everything just right.
Yeah.
And so this guy, and I'm with my grandmother. My grandmother took me to take the driver's test.
Wow.
And I just remember getting back into the car with her, and I could see the drive instructor across the parking lot. I started yelling at him for flunking me loudly and rudely and cursing too.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I just
can't believe
cringed.
that.
I feel so bad for that
doesn't-
guy. What was I thinking?
Well, you were obviously angry. He ruined your life.
Oh, yes.
Mm.
So what was that? I must have been 18,
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Just,
Well, you moved on from there. You did get your driver's license.
I did get my driver's license.
Different driver instructor, I hope.
Yes.
Probably the other guy said, no. I know.
Not her again.
Yeah, I'm calling in sick. And you wanted to be a flight attendant, but they weren't hiring.
Yes. When I graduated from Bakersfield College, I did get my associate's degree. And so I finished up there when I was 21. And they weren't hiring. So I actually came back up to Seaside, where my mother was still living, and spent the summer there trying to figure out what I was going to do.
Sure.
Worked at the Pig and Pancake, if anybody's been to Seaside.
I know exactly where that is. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just for the summer. I actually met a really good friend, Christian friend, strong Christian friend.
Wow.
Yes. And she was working that summer as well. Yeah. And so that was a good summer for me too.
Yeah.
To get to know her. And then I decided to go back to school. And I moved down. I think I stayed with family until I found with my father's family until I found an apartment. Mm-hmm. But I was looking at Cal State schools, and there's several in that area, like Northridge, Long Beach, Fullerton. Right. And I picked the school that was closest to Disneyland because I wanted to work there.
Nice.
So Cal State Fullerton seemed to be the best bet, and they had a good business program. Mm-hmm. So that worked out. Mm-hmm. And I got to work at Disneyland. Yay! Oh
man, that is like a dream job.
It was. I loved it. It was so much fun. And I worked in 3 different shops, so I had 3 different costumes that I wore, but I didn't have to wash them or anything. Disneyland did all of that. I just chucked them in and out.
How about that?
Yeah, it was very fun.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. So you're on your own. You're at Cal State Fullerton. Couple years, right? 2 years? Well, I actually was there from the spring semester of 82, and then I graduated in 85. I had in 83 I studied overseas in Denmark. That's right too. Yes.
Yeah.
And tell me about one of the things you talked about was Legos.
Oh yeah. So Legos is from Denmark.
Yeah.
And so now I'm a big Lego. Disneyland and Lego, that's my 2 things.
Nice. Do you have a little Lego Disneyland at your house?
I wish, but no.
You can get started maybe.
I can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was fun. My year in overseas, because I got to see a lot of the world. And the school, the reason I picked it was because it did a bunch of study tours to Russia and East Germany and Poland and Brussels.
Wow.
So it just gave me a chance to see and really appreciate what we have here. We just have life so easy and so convenient, and it was an eye opener.
Yeah,
it was a good experience.
And all this time, there's you have a relationship with Christ. I mean, you began that at 8.
I did, but I can't really call it a relationship. I was being a good girl and doing the right thing as best I could.
Yeah.
But really didn't even really understand about having a relationship. Right. I believed in God.
Yes.
I believed in God. And I believed that Jesus died for my sins.
Yeah.
I believed it all.
Yeah.
But I really didn't understand that you could have that relationship. I really didn't realize that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. I mean, the various churches that you went through throughout life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That is surprising.
Yeah.
Now, when I was in college, living in Bakersfield, I would attend a church. But once I moved to California, I didn't really know anyone, and none of my family there went to church, so I didn't attend at all during that time period, or when I was in Europe. Right. Because they don't really.
Europe. Yeah. Europe is somewhat the darkness in Europe, really spiritually. Yeah. In fact, there's many missionaries in Europe, and they have a hard time bringing people to Christ, harder than perhaps many other.
Oh, wow.
Even the Muslim countries.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you come back, you graduate. You go through this culture shock of, whoa, I'm back in the United States, and this is weird.
Yeah, that was weird. I I went to my mom's in Seaside
Okay.
again, and I just had a really hard time, because I had friends there that still live there from when I was in high school.
Right.
But I just had a hard time relating to them, and really, I just hadn't experienced what I experienced. Not that I experienced anything, bad or earth-shattering, but still, I couldn't wrap my head around being home again. It was a challenge coming back. More so than going there, which was kind of weird. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I want to take you to your next major event in life. You're 25, you graduate.
Yep. And for me, I had my life pretty much planned out. I mean, not exact, but pretty exact.
Right. Well, that sounds about you.
So at that time, I was actually 24. I graduated 24, and my birthday wasn't until August. But at that time in my life, I had to be married. That was just how it was. And when I came back from Europe, I went to Oregon first, and then I came down to California because I needed to finish school.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was staying with my grandparents. No, not my grandparents. Well, my grandmother on my father's side.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it was really, really far from where I live. I mean, where school was, and it was just not the best place for me.
Yeah.
So I decided it just wasn't convenient. So I called some friends, and a friend, I knew a lot of people, of course, because I still worked at Disneyland, and one of the friend of a friend at their parents' house had a room that I could stay in until I got a permanent place.
Right.
Well, that person that was their house was a guy, and so his parents.
Yeah.
So he had, and so we just started hanging out, and I was almost 25, so it was time to get married. So when he asked me, I said, yes. Okay, let's do it.
Right. It's right into my plan. Yeah.
Fits perfectly.
Right.
Yes. What we think at 24. So it went okay. I got a job at a CPA firm in California.
Okay. Yeah.
And was working and enjoying it. Nice, really great place to work, and enjoyed my coworkers, and my first husband was a musician, so went to lots of. He played Dixieland jazz, so went to a lot of I don't know what you call them. Anyway, places where they played that music.
Right.
And so it was fun. I was having a good time and enjoying life, and thought things were good. We didn't attend church. I thought he was a believer just because of some of the things he said, but I never really, asked the question because that was just not on my radar at all.
Right.
And we had just moved into this really cute little apartment. I loved it. It was above the garages, so you weren't on the first floor. So it was just really nice and new, and 2 months later he decided that was enough, and he left.
Goodness.
Yeah, and we've been married barely 2 years, and before I knew it, he had divorce papers, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the biggest shocker of my life.
I bet.
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought things were, going along good. And,
so now you're 27.
Now I'm 27. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really kind of reacted to that part of life by saying, "Okay, then let's go a different direction."
Yes.
Kind of thing.
I can't remember it. I started working a lot, putting in a lot of hours at work, and maybe you're thinking about, anyway, so I had a good job, I made good money, and I had lots of credit cards. So somebody would call me, and at that time, at some point, I just couldn't afford that apartment anymore by myself. So I moved, but it was a long ways out from where work was and my friends, and So a friend would call and say, "Oh, Michelle, it's St. Patrick's Day. Let's go out." Oh, I don't have anything to wear. And so I would just go to the store and buy myself a whole outfit. You know, I was single and I didn't have to answer to anybody.
Right. So you said it's time to spend money.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes. Oh, yes. My next mistake. Anyway.
Your next growth experience.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. It was, but you know, it was hard and it was heartbreaking. And so that's why I worked a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, went out with my friends a lot.
Right.
And didn't really stop and think. But in a lot of ways, the hardest thing for me, not that he was gone, but that I was divorced.
Yeah.
I never wanted that to happen.
Right.
You know, that was not my plan for my life.
Right. And those are the days when if you were divorced, you were like no good anymore.
Yeah.
Some people believed.
Not quite so much in the 70s, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
In 80s. I guess this was 87. And,
yeah.
But anyway, it was for me, because that's not what I wanted to, that was not the plan for my life.
Sure.
And so that was devastating because of that.
And you didn't ever, well, God wasn't something that you decided, hey, I can find some peace and something in God.
No. That never even entered my mind, you know, because again, it was about being good and following the rules and, you know, all of that rather than having a relationship.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're, you go through that period of life, and then you had made a comment. You were tired and you were ready for a change. Just tired of living that life, and you were ready for a change. You were 33, and you decided to go to Japan.
Yeah. Before that, I moved up to Washington.
Oh, I missed a part. Sure.
Back up to Oregon.
Right.
And I'd actually kind of dated this guy, and he went to Japan.
Oh, okay.
And then we broke up, and I really still liked him, so I thought, I had a few friends that had taught English in Japan, and they really loved it. And I was getting tired of working long hours. I've been working at CPA firms for 10 years, and I was just ready for a change.
Yeah.
That's right. And so, and I'd had these friends that had gone to Japan and taught English, and I thought, okay, that sounds like fun. I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah. So
I applied and went through some training and then headed off to Japan in 1993.
Wow.
Yep. It was Tokyo. I ended up in Tokyo.
Okay.
And Shinjuku, to be exact. And I was teaching school. That's kind of the downtown of Tokyo. Tokyo is really a state. So that's the downtown area of that. That's like where everything happens. So I did not live there. I lived in an outer area of Nakano. And so I had to take the train in. But I worked later, so I wasn't in that, where you shove people into the train. I didn't have to deal with that. But I joined the Nakano, I forgot what it was called, but it was the little local group where foreigners and Japanese would get together and go do something. You could take Japanese lessons, and we'd go do things. Like bowling, and went to Kamakura and stuff like that. And then they do the camping trip too. And so I signed up for the camping trip. This is all through my Japanese classes where I hear about it all.
Right.
I couldn't go to any of the meetings because of work, but they said, that's fine. So just meet here Saturday morning and we'll go on the camping trip. Yeah. So I got there, and there was a guy on the train, and he had made sushi, this tuna with cucumber sushi roll.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was sharing it with everybody, and it was very good. And anyway, he was the leader of my group, actually, as it turned out. And really, really nice guy. For the rest of the camping trip, we just chatted and stayed up late talking and having really getting to know each other. And that was my husband.
And you, so you married December 8th, 1995.
I did. Yes, that's
I'm glad I got that right. Huh?
Yes, you did get that.
Some of my notes aren't quite right. But.
Yeah. In City Hall.
Okay.
And I had a couple of friends that co-workers that came and were there with.
And that was in Japan. City Hall in Japan. Yeah.
City Hall in Nakano in Japan.
Right.
Yeah. He was an accountant and he had his own accounting firm in Nakano.
Huh.
Yeah.
Handy.
I know. So we got married and then in December later in December we came to the United States and had a church ceremony in the Oak Park Church in Portland.
Okay.
Yeah. Really, really cool old church.
Yeah.
My mom helped throw that together pretty nicely.
Cool.
Yeah. It was.
Moms have a way of doing that.
They do. They do. So that was.
So you are now married. You're about 35, if I remember.
35,
like
yeah. And then we went back to Japan. Of course, that was just a visit.
Right.
And I had my own classes now, I think.
Okay.
Teaching. I wasn't working for that school anymore. Right. And then Salem came along. I was about 6 months pregnant, and we decided to move to the States. And we moved, first we moved in with my mom in Beaverton, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah. And, no, she was in Scappoose by then.
Oh,
Scappoose.
okay.
I'm getting it up.
That's a funny name. I like that.
Yeah, Scappoose. So when Sam was born, that's where we were living. Right. And we stayed with them for a little bit. And then I think when he was maybe 3 or 4 months, we got an apartment in Beaverton.
Okay, go Beaverton. Copelands.
Go Beaverton, yeah. That's right. That's where the Copelands. Yeah. So we lived there, I think about, in February of 97. No. Oh, anyway, I can't remember exactly. Yeah. We moved out to New Jersey. Okay. We decided we wanted to move. He was going to get another job, and neither one of us had ever lived on the East Coast. Yeah. So we decided,
why not?
Let's go. Why not? Okay. So my husband Toshi got a job in New York City at the financial center, right next to the Twin Towers, that complex there. And he commuted. We lived in New Jersey, and he commuted into work from there, and then that was where Winston was born.
Okay, well that's cool. Yeah. So you have Salem and Winston.
And Winston.
This whole period from going to Japan, getting married up until now, there's really no thought of church. No. There's no spiritual growth. No. There's no interest. Really, it's.
I still believe in God. Right. I'm still doing the right thing.
Yes.
And I'm still. I believe in God, and I believe that Jesus died for my sins. I believe all of that. But again, I still haven't gotten that concept of having a relationship with God.
Right.
It just has not entered my realm.
Yeah. But the kids are born and you start thinking about church.
Yes, yeah. Once the boys were born, and we didn't stay on the East Coast very long. It just, too hot and humid, I think, was mainly. So we decided to move back to the West Coast, and we moved to the San Francisco area.
Okay.
Much more comfortable for me, much more familiar for me. Although I'd never lived up there, I'd lived in California for quite a few years. So, so by this time, I'm really thinking seriously, because I just wasn't familiar with where things were or how things worked back on the East Coast. So now I'm really thinking about church, and I want the boys to be going to church and Sunday school and all of that. So I found, it was called Evangelical Free Church in Walnut Creek.
Okay. Yeah. Well, these names are coming to you.
Yeah, they are. It was, God really moved. I just felt really, grew a lot there.
So you feel like, this is
so this
spiritual
is
growth.
Spiritual, yeah. Oh my goodness, they had excuse me. They had the best women's group. It was a big church.
Sure.
It was a really, really big church. And a Tuesday morning or something like that. I could bring the boys. There's a place, nurseries for them to stay, and I could go to the women's group, and it was just such a blessing. I just felt so, I grew a lot spiritually there. Learned more about reading my Bible.
Okay.
I mean, I'd never done that.
Yeah.
I had Bibles, but I never read them.
Right.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, right.
And then, excuse me. And first we were, we go into these small groups, and my particular small group was for almost like new Christians.
Okay.
Young Christians.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that was, I forget the name of the book, but it was really just sort of took you step by step, and, reading God's word and what some things were, and started learning, about praying and all of that.
Yeah.
It was really a wonderful, wonderful time. And then we started, Salem was 4, will be 5 in the summer. And so we started thinking about moving to Japan, because my husband wanted them to learn Japanese. They have Japanese family, you want them to be able to speak to them. And
yeah.
So we decided, because kindergarten is 4th grade, you're 4 when you start kindergarten in Japan.
Okay.
So this was the time to go.
Yeah.
And so he went over there first, got a job, and he was over there. And, just everything, I prayed a lot about, where we were going to live and all of that. And everything just fell
Wow, that's
right
pretty
into
cool.
place.
I mean, you're praying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're knowing God.
Yes.
And you believe that He's listening, and there's this relationship.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It was very cool. It was a good time in my life. And so every once in a while in this women's group, they'd have people come up and talk about something that was going on and how God was working in their lives. When I first started going, there was no way I'd be getting up there.
Right.
But everything was just, I could just really feel like this move to Japan was really where God was wanting us to go, because everything was just falling right into place.
Yeah.
My husband found a great place for us to live, and he had a job, and
right.
So one day they asked me, well, why don't you come up and share? And so I was able to share just what God was doing and all the different things that He was lining up for us so that we could get to Japan. And it was really amazing. Yeah.
Well, if Sabra's watching, it sounds like you've got some women's ministry to do. Guess who's your next speaker?
Anyway, it was good, and I enjoyed it. And then we moved to Japan. Yeah. And I did find, because I was just on fire, so I found a church in Tokyo. They're few and far between, but it was a couple hours train ride. Wow. But they had a women's group as well. Okay. So I got involved with that. We went a few times on Sunday, but it was really hard to get 2 small boys up and out the door into church. So I mainly went to the women's group once a week. Right.
And that's 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing when you get to know who Jesus is. He's that important.
Right.
2 hour train ride, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Huh, yeah. That's amazing.
It was good. Unfortunately, I have to say it wasn't going on the whole time I was there. Sure. Eventually, it was just too far, and I was involved with the boys' school, and just life got busy, and 2 hours. And my husband is not a believer, so he didn't go. And he went with us a few times, Christmas or that kind of thing. Yeah. But I was still praying and reading my Bible. I had I forgot what it's like, a prayer partner or something. It sort of walks you through, praying, and so I used that a lot to sort of lay out how I was going to pray, and that was good. It was it was a little bit of a growth, not as much as I had been doing when we lived in California, Northern California, but it was still good. But
at this point, you were really taking responsibility for your own spiritual growth.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a huge step.
It was a very huge step because I had no clue before that.
Right.
Like,
right.
oh, that's what we do?
Right.
Or, you know,
Yeah.
I thought you followed the rules and did the right thing and
Right.
that was it.
Yeah.
You know?
Huh. Sign of maturity when you take responsibility for your own growth. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you were in about 7 years in Japan.
Yes, we were there about 7 years.
And then life changed again for you.
Yes, yeah. The stock market crashed. That's where all our money was. So by this time, my husband is investing just on his own.
Right.
So that's how we make our money.
Sure.
So when that all happened, we made the decision for the boys and I, because we had a house here in Union, because we came every summer.
Right.
Well, that was another part of it too.
Yeah.
Every summer we were here for church, and the boys got to go to vacation Bible school a lot.
Okay.
So that, I think, was a lot of my
that was
growth
building
and spiritual.
into
Yeah. So we had that house here. So we came here. My husband stayed in Japan because that's where his work was.
Sure.
And we moved out of our apartment. And so then we came here, and that was a big change. So the boys learned to read and write in Japanese.
Okay.
And we always spoke English at home,
Yeah.
but their first schooling was Japanese.
Wow.
So they didn't read or write in English at all. Very little at this point. We just started because we thought that we had a few more years before we'd come to the States.
Yeah.
So we kind of started. We'd started a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd gotten some information from a good friend that was homeschools here, and so we were doing a little bit.
Yeah.
But then everything fell apart, and so we came here, and so I decided that instead of throwing them into a school where they couldn't read or write that I would homeschool.
Oh, wow.
So I homeschooled for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
I loved it. I just loved it.
Huh.
Yeah, because I was learning as much as they were learning, and we were doing it together.
Yeah.
And it was just so much fun to spend time together all the time.
That's cool.
Yeah. We'd go to the park whenever we wanted, and it was just because there's a park in Union.
Right.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it. But then as Sam was getting closer to high school, and then finally my husband was able to come.
Right, yeah.
Money-wise, things were good, and so he could come. And so we took a couple months and went down to Ventura, California to visit.
Back to California.
And we went to some schools and checked out several schools, and we liked some. So we, the one school we really wanted Sam to go to, it was a lottery.
Okay,
and we didn't get it. So we did our second choice, which was El Camino High School at Ventura College, which, of course, God has a plan, and He has a perfect plan, and it was the perfect place for him.
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah. So it was a school where you went to college classes. You took college classes as you did high school, and they did one subject at a time.
Okay.
And he had one teacher the whole 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And so it was really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And we could walk. I think we drove most of the time, but it was just right there across the street from where we lived. And it was really good.
Huh.
We spent 4 years.
Yeah.
Winston wasn't doing as well. And so when my mom called, my husband said, maybe you guys need to get up to move up to Washington. So I emailed my mom and I said, Mom, Toshi's thinking we need to move up to Washington with you. And here's God again, which I just love. She had just heard from her doctor that morning that she couldn't drive anymore. Wow. What's she going to do?
Yeah.
So she gets home from that doctor's appointment and finds my email saying, we got to move up there, Mom.
She's like, wow, thank you, God.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Yeah.
Exactly. And although we didn't find a good church down there, we did go a few times. They had a youth group that the boys joined in a little bit, but it just didn't, do it for us. So anyway, we get back up here, and Salem goes off to college, and we, get right back into church here, and eventually I get a job,
right,
and
here you are.
And here I am. Here I am.
Now you're doing something interesting with Salem and your mom, right?
Oh, yes. So there's this app. Always an app for everything, right? It's called YouVersion, and it has where you can read the Bible, just read the Bible.
Yeah.
But it also has these plans. And you could do plans by yourself, or you could do 1, 2, 3 day plans.
Right.
There's a bunch to choose from.
Yeah.
Or you can do like a year-long plan,
right.
and you can share it with people.
Yeah.
So last Christmas, when Salem was home from work, home visiting, we, the three of us decided, let's do one, and we picked the New Testament in a year.
Okay.
So it's just so much fun because you read, this portion, and then you can make comments about what you just read.
Oh, cool.
And we can see each other's comments and comment on each other's comments, and it's very,
it's like
very,
a small group with your family
it
reading
is.
the Bible together. Yeah.
It is, and you could really do it with anyone.
Yeah.
And the person that showed or sort of hooked me into this, where you could share was. Maudie something. She used to do Youth for Christ out of the Canal.
Right.
She invited me to
okay.
do one for a year. I didn't do very well with her. Sorry, Maudie. Anyway, but we're doing this.
Cool.
And it's just really fun and learning a lot. And in fact, one of the things that we recently did, we're in Corinthians now, but a few weeks ago we were in Romans. And I ran across Romans 12 verses 1 and 2, well, partway through 1, and it says, give your body to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. And for me, I'm always wondering, am I doing the right thing? Again, the right thing. Am I worshiping how I worship? And it tells me right here, that's how you do it. And then the next part was, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. And again, it tells you right here how to worship and how to know God's will. And I was like, all right, cool. I got it.
Yeah.
It was very, very, very. And there was another verse here too, which I really liked. It's a little bit further, verse 9. It said, don't just pretend to love others. And I think they're talking about fellow believers.
Right.
Really love them. Hate is what is wrong. Hold tight to what is good. And then verse 10, and this is what I really like this one, is love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. And I just love that. Take delight. Those are such beautiful words, I think.
Yeah.
Take delight in honoring each other.
Yeah.
And the one comment that I made when we had read this was, man, what a world we'd live in if we all just followed those few little verses,
Yes, if we delighted in each other more.
Delighted in each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I really loved that.
Wow.
That was good.
Glad you shared that.
Yeah. So YouVersion is a great tool.
Well, there we go. So
it gets
again,
you going, reading
maybe
the Bible.
maybe that's something we do with our men's ministries, women's ministries.
There we go.
Small groups.
Yeah. It's a great, and like I said, it has like lots of different plans. So the next one we're doing is Romans. They've got a Romans one, and I had enjoyed Romans so much that Mom and I thought, well, that'll be the next one we could do, and it won't be quite as long. Although I loved doing this, but I want to have littler chunks each day, so you can kind of really get into the scripture.
Well, it sounds like we have a new ministry and a new ministry
Yeah.
leader. This is good. What a good journey.
But anyway, I'm really enjoying it. It's a great resource for the three of us to do together.
Yeah.
It is a little bit hard for my mom to write things.
Sure.
But she does.
Yeah.
She gives it a whirl, and yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
Good.
Well, it's so great that your mom and you and Salem, and I'm going to have to get Salem on the journey and hear Salem's journey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think we can do that with our technologies.
Oh,
so
maybe.
we'll try.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back at Christmas.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your journey.
Thank you.
What a wonderful, wonderful way in which Christ was with you the whole time, but transformed from learning to be a good person to learning who Jesus is and walking with him.
Right. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us that you haven't? You don't have to.
So.
I'm just no.
No,
Okay.
I don't think that was. I think I started off.
Well, I think and I think you emphasized that all the way through that you learned a relationship with Jesus, and joy in that, and and how Scripture now speaks to you,
right?
And I love your enthusiasm over Romans 12, that delight in each other. This is how you worship, and
I guess the other thing too was, when we started this last January, of course that's a busy time for me. So I'm reading every day, but lately I've started doing where I really listen to what I'm reading. I'm not just reading. And that has been different too since before, other times that I've done plans in here, is that I'm actually reading it and taking something away.
Right.
Not just because I have to make a comment at the end, but because I want to hear what it's saying.
You want to know the author. You want to know who God is.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but that's right.
That's the relationship. Cool.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us on this first episode of our second season of The Journey. I'm glad you joined us. It's been a pleasure to have you. Perhaps there's something that you've heard in The Journey today that sparks some interest in you or just resonates with you. And maybe it's part of your journey in which God is bringing you closer to himself. We would love to be part of your journey. If there's something that sparks your interest, that creates in you something that you want to ask a little bit more, don't hesitate to call us, email us. All of our information is on Facebook for getting hold of us. We'd love to chat with you and be part of your journey with Christ. And may God bless you the rest of the day.
The journey begins at the narrow gate. The journey, Jesus beckons me to roam. The journey, where the path is straight. The journey takes me home. The journey takes me home.